I didn't really like know what was going to come. And so, you know, they just take you into triage and just do the thing, you know, just like the normal stuff. And and they strap me up, they get my monitor on. Yeah. And like, I just like will never forget like the tech's face because there was no heartbeat.
All right, well, we are back. My name is Andre Guzman, and this is the podcast, Nobody Cares, but today, I care, and today I have you in front of me. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Terra. I am 36. I'm teetering really on that 40. Wait, you're 40 though, right?
Give me a few more months. I'm going to be right there. I'm going to be right there.
But you're making 40 look great.
Oh,
no,
well,
there's nothing wrong with 40.
Dude, I think 40
I'm
is
actually
the new
looking
30.
forward to 40 because the 30s have been a lot.
I think 40, this can sound so cliche, but at 40 years old, for me personally, I'm really understanding my body, my feelings, my own emotions. I know how to like raise them up, bring them back down, aka regulate those for the most part. My wife might disagree, but I think for the most part, I know who I am or who I'm trying to be, who I'm becoming, and I'm really having a lot of fun with it. And then, you know, I box. I'm really active. I'm really about how I feel and how I look and things like that, because those things mean a lot to me because I'm trying to be around for my kids for a long time. But more importantly, the things that I'm eating and things like that, those are really starting to come more natural for me. So like, I'm having a fun time coming up on 40 here. So a few more months. Do not rush me. But we are here. You have an incredible story. I only know a little bit, and I do this with everyone I interview. I just want to know a little bit about your story because I still want to have my own experience with this. I still want to feel what I want to feel as you're telling the story. You have a very compelling story. You have a story that's, I mean, we're going to get into it, but like, pull on me, geez Louise. But secondly, there is a silver lining to your story, I think, and we'll get into that towards the very end as we kind of close this thing out and where you're at now versus where you were, right? Yeah. But you are married.
I'm married.
Okay, got a couple kids?
Yep, I've got a couple biological kids.
Okay.
I have also 2 stepchildren. So it's crazy. I've got a 20-year-old stepdaughter.
Yeah.
I've got 18 stepson, and then I've got a 4-year-old, and I also have my son Weston, who's in heaven. So.
And then you walked into the first 2 that you mentioned, kids, right? That was like a relationship that was already there with 2 kids, outstanding kids, and you walked into that. How did that?
Angels.
Yes.
They're just angels.
How old were they when you got them?
So 9 and 11.
And you jumped right in?
I mean, jumped like more like I just like a little toe. Yeah. No, I mean, I fell in love with my husband.
Right.
He was different than anyone else I've ever met. I knew right away when I met him he had been married. Well, one, because he was actually really listening to me.
Okay.
On the date. He like went on the other side and like really just wanted to talk to me. We went to Javier's. Yeah. He asked for coffee. We went to Javier's.
Wow.
Yeah, he really bait and switched me with the like first date.
I like this guy.
But yeah, I mean, I fell in love with him quickly, but he was a package deal.
Yeah.
And I fell hard for my stepkids too, but I became a stepmom at 26. And that was, you know, as someone that has always been in her career, was living in New York, you know, a very independent woman, to kind of come in and fall in love with someone with an instant family was just, it was a lot.
Nothing that you had envisioned, right? No one ever grows up like, I can't wait to marry this girl, and I hope she has 2 kids already, and they're 9 and 11, I can walk right into it. No one ever says that. No,
I didn't even think it was really an option, you know? I mean, especially, I think there's a point in everyone's life when they get to an age where, you know, even if they're in the dating pool again, then that's an option, but at 26, you know, that really wasn't the pool of candidates that I was swimming in.
Right. And so let's talk about how you guys met. Just a quick one, like how'd you guys meet?
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. We met in line for the bathroom. He saw me from the back.
Wait, were you? Did he fall in love?
He did.
At first sight?
He did, and he still loves me. You know.
Can he still recognize you from the back?
He can. We actually just went to a concert. He's like, I saw you from behind. I was like, well, I know.
That's a memory you want to keep for a long time.
Yeah, 10 years later. No, and I actually, it's funny because I did keep the jeans we met in.
Yeah.
And so like I do a gut check on myself every once in a while. I'm like, okay, can we fit into this jeans?
Bring it back a little bit.
But he recognizes them. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. That's a great story. So you guys end up meeting in line, and then you guys do your thing, you do the Javier's thing, you guys get some food and whatnot. And how fast does that progress to marriage and to engagement and stuff like that?
It didn't progress that fast.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I wasn't feeling it that fast. It was just that, you know, when you date someone that has children, it's a different ball game. You know, I was judging our relationship how it was with him and I realized that it wasn't just about falling in love with him. It was about the family and the kids too. So, you know, for me, I took things as slow as I could. We dated for about a year.
Right.
After about a year, we moved the kids in with us.
Okay.
And then, you know, we got engaged after about 2 years.
Okay.
And then decided to kind of stay engaged for 2 years and have our dream wedding.
Yeah.
You know?
Had the dream wedding.
Yeah.
And then, so I want to go into the kid piece. Typically, right? Sometimes you go into these conversations, these marriages, these engagements, these relationships, and sometimes there's a conversation about kids.
Yeah.
But not for you. Not for you. I feel like you already came into something, so you already knew you had the ability to be a father, right? To be a dad.
Yeah.
Because he was one.
Right.
He is one. Was there a conversation? Hey, I know I'm walking into this, but I would also like, I don't know how to say it, but like my own, right? Like I like,
kids.
yeah, my own kid, someone like
Your
have
own blood.
with you,
Yeah.
right? Right. Your own blood, exactly. Was there a conversation like that?
There was, and there needed to be because, you know, I think when I met his kids, I always knew I wanted to be a mom in theory. I've always had that kind of biological, I knew that, and I was, you know, loved my nephews and all the things.
Yeah.
When I met my stepkids, I knew that, you know, I am made for this, right? But also I knew that I wanted to experience it, you know, coming from my body as well,
for yourself.
you know, for myself. And so for me, you know, he was very open to that.
Okay.
You know, he had kids, his first kids young. You know, he was in his early 20s.
Right.
And so, you know, when I met my husband, he was in his mid 30s. So it was like,
And you're talking about let's have one.
Yeah.
That's a different. I feel like, you know, if someone, you know, came to me at that situation, I had two in my 20s, I'm in my mid 30s, say I was, I'm like, well, I feel there's a sense of starting over.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's a sense of like, I hear it all the time. People got kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old. It's like, oh, we got pregnant again. It's like, whoa, you're literally starting all over.
Yeah,
and you're a different,
literally.
You're a different person, right?
I mean, we're talking about a 14-year age gap between the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys have this conversation, at least talk about it, throw it on the table. Well, what does it sound like? What does it look like to you?
You know, it was just, I think it wasn't even anything to really convince him of. I think he probably really enjoyed the process, you know, like most guys.
The process is long,
you know,
arduous. It's just
you know, always. But you know, he knew me, and I was very transparent from the beginning that was part of my path. So it wasn't anything that was shocking or awkward. I think it was more just like, when is the timing going to be right?
Right.
You know.
Is there ever really a right timing?
Well, okay, good question.
Yeah.
There really is no good timing because it's always gonna be a shock in some way. But you know, for me, I've been a planner my whole life.
Yeah.
I've been like, you know, a little OCD. Call it a little OCD.
There's a lot of people out there that feel the same way.
You know, I said, okay, like, hey, I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna take my 20s for myself. My 30s are gonna be for everyone else, and you know, my children, and my, you know, giving back. And I did all the things I wanted to accomplish. So in my mind, that was the next step.
Yeah. So that was the next step for you guys. You guys decide on having the kids, and go that direction. It's my understanding that the first time you guys went after this, what happened? All went well, all good, you had a baby.
Yeah, well, you know, as a woman, you always think that when I'm ready, I'm in control of that destiny. And every time it could be different. But I went in with that mindset. I think society programs us to think that you know, the first time that you do it, it's gonna, you know, you'll be ready when it's your time. But it doesn't always work like that. For me, you know, we got married in 2017, and we went on an amazing honeymoon, Bora Bora. Yeah. And you know, we decided to say, okay, let's just be carefree. We're in our honeymoon. Let's just, you know, enjoy. Yeah. And it was an oopsie Bora Bora baby. It was like, oh shit,
Like, I'm ready, but I'm not ready.
Oh, I didn't even know that this happened like that quickly.
Wow.
And it was kind of crazy because not like, you know, as a woman, you track all the things, right? Like
Yes,
all
the
apps, which
all
you
the
know
time.
they're probably secretly stealing your
I already
identity
know,
and
I
like all
already
the
know.
things.
Yeah. Hurry, come to the room. I'm ovulating.
Yeah.
You got 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Nothing
dude,
sexier than
yeah,
that.
right. Nothing sexier than giving me a time limit and
Yeah.
a window to do it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess for me at that point, I didn't understand that it
Right.
could happen that quickly.
Right.
And I was so blessed to have it happen that quickly
Okay.
for me.
So you get pregnant,
Yep.
right? And all good for the most part.
Yeah.
I want to fast forward, but how's that pregnancy for the most part?
For the most part, I mean, you know, first trimester sucks. Second trimester, you're kind of getting into your swing.
Yeah.
You know, third trimester, you're huge, and I was eating French fries.
And
you
you're
know,
over it.
Yeah, and I was over it. Overall, though, it was just a very healthy pregnancy. You
And
know,
the baby was born when?
he was born August 24th.
What's his name?
Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Wild. Looks like a little Ed Sheeran. Bright red hair. Crazy.
Ed Sheeran,
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we have Wyatt. Wyatt's all well and good. And then does a couple years go by, a couple months? What really goes by? And then the pregnancy that we're going to get into, when did
Yeah.
that happen? Was that a couple years after? Or?
So when he was about 3, you know, I kind of, in my mind, again, the planner in me,
Yeah.
right? I was like, okay, well, what's the textbook time frame where I could feel like, you know, I'm back to myself again and I'm ready to, you know, so it was about 3 years.
Do you think you suffered any postpartum?
I'm glad that you asked that
On the first
because
one?
I
Any level of it?
Well, I realize now that what I was experiencing was postpartum anxiety.
You didn't recognize it?
I didn't even know that that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought it was me being a crazy psycho first-time mom, right? Like, is he breathing?
Right.
Like is
Right.
this shaking hand? Like, what's happening? Like, I didn't even think that was a thing.
And now you know postpartum comes in different forms.
Yes, and an anxiety is such a real thing. And, you know, I would say that depression, the postpartum depression part of it is talked about a little bit more. The anxiety piece is not something I knew it could be part of that.
That's a great point. And again, to reiterate, not enough of that is being spoken about,
Yeah.
put on the platform. And that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I wanted to get ahead of this,
Yeah.
is to put this out there. And so, beautiful baby boy, Wyatt, everything's all good?
It was good. We got induced
Okay.
on my due date. Towards the last week, I started getting monitored because I wasn't feeling the move as much. And I started getting really nervous.
Yeah.
So I just started getting monitored
Okay.
on the due date. As the planner I started bringing my bags to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then on his due date, they
Yeah.
said, okay, it's
Go
go
time.
time.
Yeah.
It's got to be go time. He was totally out of fluid.
Yeah. Oh,
And his jacuzzi plug was out and he was ready.
Ready.
So I ended up being induced on my due date.
okay.
So 18 hours later,
Ooh,
whew,
mama.
ooh.
Mama. I mean, I've been there, but I haven't been there.
I
You know
mean,
what I'm
have you
saying?
done anything for 18 hours?
mean, I-
Like, I don't think there's much in life that you can do for
there isn't
18
anything I
hours.
love on this planet that I could do for 18
Yeah,
hours.
I mean,
Unless I'm getting paid.
yeah.
And I love to get paid. Anyways,
Yeah, so-
let's move
Yeah,
this conversation. So we have the second child, right? And so
Yeah.
is there a conversation about? It's my understanding that this one was planned.
It was.
You guys thought about this. You maybe prayed on it. Whatever the case,
Yeah.
were those things talked about? And if so, how much?
It was, and for me, I knew I wanted a second, so I was kind of waiting for myself physically to feel like mentally and, you know, strong enough to do another pregnancy. And so, you know, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready, right?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't happen
Yeah.
the way that last time, right?
Okay.
Like at first I didn't even start tracking. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is just happen. I'm ready, so
Yeah,
it's gonna
yeah.
happen. Well, 3-4 months go by and it's not happening. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna start doing some of the trackers, you know? Maybe I'm just like out of sync with the timing. Still not happening. It wasn't until about a year after that I actually got pregnant.
Yeah.
And it was stressful. And I think the body has so much of a, you know, has a stress response, right? And I think stress of being pregnant and trying to get pregnant, that actually can make it harder to get
I
pregnant.
agree with you. I agree.
Yeah.
I do agree. Did you guys do a pregnancy test?
Oh yeah, and I can't wait to tell you this because
Let's do it.
believe it, did you know that you could DoorDash a pregnancy test?
You can DoorDash get anything you want, including a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
Shout out to DoorDash for throwing down. Yeah.
Yeah, true story.
And what'd you guys do, DoorDash? You did do that.
Yeah. No, I DoorDashed some pregnancy tests.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm so dead. What else, tequila?
No, I mean, maybe for my husband.
Yeah, right.
No, but I was like, I just DoorDashed some tests because I was like, man, I don't want to go to the store. I'm tired, kind of feeling some things.
That's a vibe right there.
Yeah.
Yo.
Dude.
Amazon.
Yeah. He even picked me up the one that was the 7 days early, So.
Okay, we take the test. I say we because I'm there.
Yeah.
We take the test. What happens? Like, you guys excited? You happy? Is it double line, triple line?
Well, it's crazy because I hadn't even missed my period at that point. So I was kind of just like my vibes. I just could kind of tell, intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So, we were getting ready to go to Catalina trip. That weekend. It was Friday.
We were going. Look at this guy. This guy's amazing, man.
Yeah, he's got Saturday.
I'm gonna interview him next time.
Yeah, I'm worth every penny.
Yeah, I get it. I'm with it. You ain't gotta convince me.
So we were gonna go to Catalina, but I was like, I'm just feeling a certain way. I'm gonna take this test.
Yeah.
Boom. I was like, wait, what? Like, huh?
Uh-oh.
And I was like, I should have taken this on Sunday because I wanted to have a margarita on the Catalina trip.
Now you feel guilty for having a drink. You found out you're pregnant. You're like,
but I was so happy.
Okay.
I mean, relief. I mean, as a year, it was so wanted.
Right.
So excited.
Right. So when you found out we did the pregnancy test, when do you find out how far along? You're 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Did you guys go to the doctors?
Yeah, I mean, we went and did our trip.
Okay.
It actually added a really magical element of the trip, and
I could see that.
Yeah, just did the typical when you have a pretty normal pregnancy, you don't think anything could be wrong, so you just kind of go and do the thing like you always do it.
And you had been there before.
Yep.
You've done this before.
I know this. Yep. I know this process. I know what to do. So yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I want to talk about the first trimester, like your vibes, your feelings, and it's very well known that the first trimester, for the most part, is just not fun.
Yeah.
Right. I know my wife was like just tired, sleepy. I remember one morning I left in the morning just to work. Right. I left super early. She was on the couch. I think I left at like 7:30 a.m. Right. I think I got back at like 4 p.m. Still on the couch, right where I left her. Hadn't moved. Did you have any of those things going on? Throwing up, nauseousness? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I was one of those people that's like first thing in the morning sick, until you had something in my stomach.
Okay.
So it's like, bring me the crackers, bring me the carbs, bring like all the things.
What was those the things that you were into?
Oh, carbs, yes.
Chocolate, anything?
The fries.
Any weird like pickled dip in chocolate type stuff that you're into?
Sometimes I wonder, like, is that real?
I don't know.
I mean, it could be though for some people. It wasn't my personal experience, like weird things.
Did
it was
you give
more.
anything up? I know my wife couldn't do chocolate, that is just not even a thing. There's chocolate in our house all the damn time. But when she's like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
It's gonna make me throw up. That's when I knew. I was like,
You're
thing is real.
Yeah.
This is real. And so, any of those things, no?
I mean, not crazy. I was one of the lucky ones in that respect. Food wasn't really like so much of an issue for me, except that I really loved French fries, salty,
Yeah.
and just that pretty much.
So you had some pretty standard stuff in the first trimester. How'd that second trimester? How'd you guys really into that?
It was, everything was good, kind of going according to plan. We found out we were having another boy.
Okay.
I was totally shocked because I was like, okay, I always imagined myself being a girl mom too.
Yeah.
And I was just excited. Everything just felt very similar to my pregnancy with Wyatt, And I just never, when you have a healthy pregnancy, you kind of just always assume that things will be that way.
Yeah. And you guys did your normal checkups?
Yeah,
you guys do
everything was great.
The blood work?
Everything, all the anatomy scans were great.
Okay.
Everything was perfectly healthy.
The blood work test?
All the genetic
For the Down
tests.
syndrome stuff, all that stuff,
All came good. Every scan, good. 3D
Always
ultrasounds.
get if you have the ability and the means to do it, for the viewers out there, get those tests done, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You find out where you're at, see what's going on with your baby. You get an internal look at what's going on inside. Yeah. Outside of just the heartbeat and doing the traditional things, if you have the means to do it, I highly suggest it. You get a really deep understanding of what's going inside your body, right? What the baby's doing, how it's acclimating, really how far along the baby is, or maybe it isn't. And so I think it gives people way more insight, way more data to pull from when they go ahead and do the extra steps. It sounds like you guys are doing too as well.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that even if what the tests show, some people, you know, what the test shows may not be ideal, it just helps you to be prepared for what you're gonna go through.
Yes,
You know, like
yes.
I remember they told me, well, you don't do this test if you don't plan to do anything about it. That was what they told me in my first pregnancy, and I was like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy,
That's
right?
harsh, yeah.
But I'm like, that's not even what it is. It's not even about doing something. It's just about
Mentally preparing you.
preparing yourself for
Of
the
what
journey.
life could be.
Yeah.
If your baby was born with a certain syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's a very real conversation I think a lot of people ignore,
Yeah.
don't want to hear, don't want to have.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys had those conversations, which is great.
Yeah.
Let's move into the third trimester. Are things getting dicier? Are things all good? Where are we at?
Everything was great. I was just exceptionally busy. We had just bought a house, so I was like full-blown nesting in a house that was unfinished. I just was trying to be mom mode, but also project manager and construction. And so I would just say that outside of just being crazy physically busy, everything was normal. And I wasn't almost even allowing it to be any other way because I was just so busy. I was just like a busy little bee.
And things were moving along.
Yeah, everything was great. He was healthy, doing all the scans, did the baby shower, had the nursery set up. I was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go into sort of the pregnancy itself and leading up into that. Did you go through the normal process of like water breaking and all that things, and like what led you to the hospital? Let's talk about that. And then how'd you guys get there? We have a funny story, my wife and I don't know if you guys have a similar one, but yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so my situation is pretty different because, you know, I'm a planner. I think I've expressed that a few times now. But
she planned this
yes.
too, by the way. She made me move the time today, by the way. You don't want to tell people the truth? Let's tell them the truth. Nobody
well,
cares.
you
Got
know, no. So I wanted to have a scheduled induction.
Okay.
And the reason being was because I had a 4-year-old and I wanted to be able to plan to make sure my parents were here. I didn't go into labor naturally with my last pregnancy because I was induced. So I was mentally prepared to do that again. I was like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I had an induction date on this schedule. And so I wasn't expecting like a water break moment because I had that planned, right? Yeah. And it was going to be just after I was 39 weeks, the induction date. So she was going to take me a week before full term, which is 40 weeks. So all of that was set, bags were packed, all was good. It was the Saturday before. I was supposed to be induced that following Wednesday. I was just really busy that day.
Yeah.
Just doing all the stuff. It was my last Saturday before baby.
Yeah.
And it was 4 p.m. and I was just sitting there, you know, and it's very normal for a woman to, you know, you're supposed to do the kick counts and like all the things.
Yeah.
But it's so normal to be busy and just not notice. And then, you know, finally sit down and say, woo, like, you know, where are they at?
Yeah.
And it was at 4 o'clock and I was like, okay, like I'm so busy, like where is he at? And I couldn't feel him moving. And I was like, wait, what the heck? Like, what's going on? So, of course, I didn't, you know, my husband thought I was being crazy. He's like, oh, just go get some orange juice. He like ordered the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah,
like
something
all
sugary, get him moving.
Yeah. Pushing my stomach and like still don't feel anything. So I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to get nervous. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And so I called the Hoag Hospital, my local hospital, and I just called them. I said, hey, like, this is what I'm feeling. Like, what do you think? And they said, you know, just come in. You'll feel better.
Yeah.
Just come in and make sure everything's okay. And, you know, I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to pack the car seat and bring all my things and just in case something, you know. But everything changed for me when I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. My husband was waiting for my parents to come.
Yeah.
So I was by myself.
Yeah. So they check you in, you get to the hospital, they find you a room, they find you a bed. And sort of walk us through like what that was, what that felt like. And you still don't know it's what, right? You're just... No,
I mean, it was like 8:30 at night. I didn't really, I didn't really like know what was going to come. And So, you know, they just take you into triage and just do
Yeah.
the thing, you know, just like the normal stuff. And and they strap me up, they get my monitor on.
Yeah.
And like, I just like will never forget like the text face because there was no heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm gonna try not to ugly cry. Yeah, truly like that moment for me, more than the labor and any of that stuff, was the worst moment of my life. So,
What do they have to do at this point?
yeah, it was, well, at that point I went into like full shock, you know, like no one was really being clear. I couldn't like put that together, that like no heartbeat meant he was no longer alive.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even put that together. I called my husband, just hysterical, like screaming, like, where are you? You know, the guys at the front desk, like trying to get him to take a COVID test. He's like, bro, like,
This ain't the time.
yeah, like ain't the time.
Yeah.
I need to go and
Yeah.
like get to my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when I saw him, I just,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, you know, they go into it's like, I felt, honestly, they didn't really give me a moment to process before they went into like, well, what do we need to do next, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, from a health perspective, when something like that happens.
Yeah. What are some of the health risks of just sitting there and not, so for the viewers, you know.
Well, you know, there's always like risk of infections, you know, no matter what stage of pregnancy you're in. So there's usually always some type of process to end, you know, the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was, okay, like, what do you want to do? How do you, we have, you know, we're going to have to deliver him. So how do you want this to look? And, you know, originally I thought, like, I just want a C-section because I want this over with. Like, I had an 18-hour labor. Like, how could I possibly do 18 hours of labor again for a baby that I can't even bring home?
Correct.
So I was like adamant, and she said, you know, I respect with whatever you want to decide, but take a minute to think about it. That wasn't how I delivered my first. She said the recovery time and the physical side of that amidst all that you're going through is going to be a lot. So I said, okay, well, I'll do this, but I don't want to feel anything.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And so when I got admitted, before they even did anything, before they even checked me to see if I was dilated, ready to deliver, I got an epidural.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could stop feeling everything.
And then for you, what emotions did you feel? Do you feel, I mean, there's disbelief, there's like, I don't believe you, this can't be happening to me. What are you feeling?
I mean, aside
Anger?
from,
I have no clue.
yeah, honestly, it wasn't even like any type of feeling that could even be expressed unless you've been through it.
Okay.
You know, it's like just not understanding, physical pain, like just like the pain associated with feeling that, right? Like, you know, all of that, it's
truly hurt.
It's unimaginable, and it was.
Yeah.
You know, it was the worst day of my life, truly.
And so, what decision did you end up making there
Yeah.
as they kind of let you and your husband sort of decide on what you want to do? What did you decide to do?
I had decided that, you know, I wanted to experience the birth just like I did with my other son.
Yeah.
Just because the fact he wasn't alive didn't mean that he didn't deserve what, you know, was meant to be, right? Yeah. So I decided to be induced and to start the process. And this is the thing that's so crazy. Just because the baby is not alive, and I had a full term, 7 pounds, 1 ounce baby, like the process of delivery doesn't change. It's just that the one thing that makes you feel good at the end, which is seeing your baby cry and look at you, like you don't get to experience that.
Yeah. So you decided to do it the way that you wanted to do it. You feel good about that? That you felt like?
I did.
You did it in the most humane and the most loving way that you could do it and that you felt was right. That's good.
I did.
Yeah.
And it was, believe it or not, the trauma that I feel about this experience, like, it was not the labor. Everyone, expects that to be the worst thing. When I describe it, it actually is the moment I found out he wasn't alive. Because the labor, I didn't feel anything as much, and it progressed. I think, as a woman, when you have your second pregnancy, the roads are paved, right?
Yeah. Somewhat.
Somewhat,
At least there's a road. Might be a dirt road, but there's a road.
It might, but everything progressed so much quicker because my body knew what to do, right? So, so I went through it, and just so much compassion on the hospital's part, I have to say, just like the nurses and not necessarily in the triage room, to be honest, but in the hospital.
Yeah.
Just really helping me as however I could.
When you ended up delivering the baby, did you go through some of the motions? Did you do skin to skin? And I'm asking these personal questions because I don't think these questions are getting asked enough. And two, I don't think people know where to start, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So
it's a great question. And honestly, in the hospital, they gave me those options.
That's incredible.
They want to know what you want to do.
It's what you want to do.
What you want to do. Like, how do you see this moment happening? Like, this is your one chance to make memories with your child.
Yes.
So what does that look like? Like, what will serve you and your family? So, for me, it was important to have him blessed. So they called a pastor at midnight so that he was ready to meet me in the morning as soon as my son was born. For me, it was, I wanted to see him.
Yeah. Did you hold him?
Yeah. He was perfect. Truly. I mean, I show pictures of him because I'm so proud of who he is. But
what's his name?
Weston.
Anything you want to tell Weston?
I love him as if he was here with me, And I want the world to know about him, even though he didn't live outside my body. And I think that's what every person that goes through this wants you to know is your child mattered and they lived. And they want you to say their names. Everyone gets so nervous to talk about this, and I don't want to, they're too fragile or they're afraid to say it. But you know what? The reality is that's what we want. Yeah. So.
What did that do to their relationship with you and your husband? What was that like? I know it couldn't have been easy. Yeah,
it was really difficult in the beginning. And I think the one thing I noticed is men and women, they grieve differently. Even, not only being physically different, but just the grief process looks different, right?
There's a lot of dust in here. I'm going to get this dust off.
Okay.
This is, I've heard a lot of wild stuff like this, off the wall, very traumatic experience. This is one of the ones I've heard that's really gotten to me personally. One, because I know you, but two, it's just I'm having this really intimate conversation with a fellow parent.
Yeah, I have two children.
Yeah,
and I have two kids too.
Yeah.
So
you guys just work through this stuff. I mean, this is a tough one. This is one that grabs two people, rams you together and separates you and tears you apart. And I know this from my own experience of what it's like to have trauma within birth, within things like that too, and what it can do to a couple. What did it do for you guys?
Well, actually, when I talked to one of our pastors from our church shortly after everything happened, he told me right away, like, the statistics for people that divorce after losing a child is over 50%. Yeah.
That is such a wild number.
Yeah.
It almost 50%. Makes you like, who did I marry?
Yeah.
Who did I get involved? They can't even hang.
Yeah.
But the experience, the trauma is so large, it's greater than sometimes the strength of the marriage or the partnership, I think.
Yeah, in more ways, and more often than not, So when he told us that statistic, Brian and I were like, oh my gosh, like,
I
I
don't want to follow that.
We better buckle down.
Yeah.
No, we were just like, I don't want to be that number.
Correct.
Like, I don't want that for us. But we were still so early in understanding the grief process that we, you know, that we didn't know, like, what was ahead of us, you know?
Yeah.
You know, going through postpartum and, you know, going through that experience is hard enough as it is, but let alone try going through postpartum when you don't have a child.
Yeah.
You know, every single postpartum experience stays the same.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with the postpartum, you're dealing with the grief,
Oof.
you're dealing with the loss, you're dealing with a fully set up nursery, you're dealing with planning your child's funeral.
People forget about these things.
Memorial.
I wanted to go into that. I wanted to talk about, you know, it's a celebration. It's obviously a loss for sure, but people aren't talking about, okay, my son or my daughter, my child passes, but that's not it. There's more. There's more work to be done. There's planning of the funeral and the services. Yeah. Things that you don't want to do. You should never have to bury your fucking kids. That is for sure. But here you are putting these arrangements together, feeling the way you're feeling, right? Your body's still, again, like you mentioned, you still went through the process of having a baby. Yeah. So you're still not completely, right? Yeah. He's going through the stuff there's a lot of variables going on here. Yeah. How did you get through, and what did you get through after? What is the process? Did they take the baby from you? What is that? Because there's a lot of viewers, they don't know. You don't just get your baby's passed. It's that time is done. Yeah. When do you say goodbye, and then what happens? Yeah.
So for me, you know, most women, they usually have an overnight stay in the hospital. I was so traumatized that I actually demanded to be released because I was so just torn up. I couldn't be there in that moment. So for me, they give you as much time as you want. For some people, they can do overnight. You could stay as long as you want. They really let the parent decide to drive how long. Okay. For me, and I know this is a little uncomfortable for people to hear, but, you know, a body changes quickly when someone passes. Yeah. And it was really difficult to see my perfect son that way. Yeah. And so I kind of made a decision pretty quickly that, you know, I was going to spend as much time with him as I could. And then I had to mentally get myself out of the hospital. Right. So
that was first order of business for you.
Yeah,
that sounds
I have to get out.
I can't be here.
I can't be here. I can't be here. I just want to go home. I want to hug my 4-year-old. I want to be with my dog. I want to be in my bed. Yeah. I just couldn't be there. So
I get it.
That was first order of business. Obviously, leaving the hospital and having to be wheeled out without your baby is undescribable. Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys planned the services and things like that?
Yeah, we did. We obviously you have to make decisions on you know how you will take care of your baby. What's the best way to take care of them, and we had to make some decisions, and then you know I had to get support. Like, I mean, making those calls is just like I couldn't, you know.
It's too early. It's too soon. And it's too fresh, and it's not, you know.
Yeah, it's your child.
When my dad passed away, it's easier to make those phone calls. Like, hey, you know, it's never hard. It's never easy. It's never super easy. It's always difficult. But this is so fresh. It's yours. It's someone that really had never had a shot at life. Yeah. And so you're making these calls, you're making these decisions. Yeah. That's got to be rough too. And you have some support and help with that?
I did. I mean, in the beginning, I didn't want anyone to even talk to me or reach out because I was so traumatized, and I just didn't want anyone to even reach out to me. Yeah. I wanted, you know, but my parents, my husband, you know, Brian was like the rock, you know. So when you asked about what it did to our marriage, Brian took the shield and forged forward when I was just couldn't do any of it. And that was his stance, and it's been his stance throughout this whole process.
I love this guy. I fucking love this guy. I'm interviewing him next.
Yeah.
Where's that shield that she was talking about? Put me behind it.
Yeah. No, so he was I wrote a speech at the memorial. Yeah. I couldn't read it.
Of course.
I wrote a tribute to my son, but I couldn't read it. But he did that for me.
That's incredible. This experience, not just for me, but even for the viewers here, has been, I mean, wow, intense to say the least. But more than anything, I think you sharing your story, one of the stories I shared a couple weeks ago, ended up going viral in the sense of, forget the likes, forget like how many people connected with it.
Right.
Which is, there's so many people that are dealing with the same thing or have dealt with or gonna deal with.
Yeah.
And they don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
Your experience is one of a kind in many, many ways. But it's also interesting that your experience is shared with other people as well. The dichotomy of these two things, right? How do I feel completely alone?
Yeah.
Yet there's so many other people who've gone through
One
what
in
I've
four.
gone through.
One in four pregnancies end in a loss.
25% end in loss. That is a wild number. That is
Yeah.
unacceptable in my opinion.
Yeah.
But more than anything, we have to find ways of moving through that. And I think one of the ways was putting this episode, this podcast together, to have these conversations, these awkward kind of like, oh, I'm not ready yet, but sounds like you are, and you got your story out there. But I also think too, with every story, not always up front, not always 2 days after, 2 months, sometimes 2 years.
Yeah.
I have found silver lining 2, 3, 4, 5 years after the fact that an incident happened. Like, all right, this is what happened. This is a hard one to justify though. This is different. This isn't like a business deal that didn't fucking happen, or this didn't work out with this girl or whatnot. This is one of those things where I want to be sensitive, and I am sensitive. Can't really say that. Like, how do you sit there and say that this is for the good, or this is for a reason? Yeah. But I'm saying all these things right now to tie into where you're currently at right now. Yeah. You and a friend of yours, Ashley, have started something called Gloves for Grief. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Boxing, fighting related, right? Yeah. All encompassing people, women, who have experienced loss, correct? Yeah. You want to talk a little bit more about that? That'd be great.
Yeah, I would love to. And, I think one thing I want to say before I go into the what, but the why, I think, when I experienced this grief, I realized that there's not much that can make you feel better. There's very few things that will make you feel better. But what does that look like? Well, it's all about mind, body, and soul, right? Okay. Mind, getting myself into therapy, getting myself into immediate help and talking about this and working on it. Grief is work, okay? Body is like fitness and health and wellness, and soul is my faith. And I'm a very spiritual person, and that's been at the center of my healing. So Gloves for Grief is going to encompass all of that. It's Gloves for Grief, boxing gloves, which I know you can relate to that.
I can.
Yeah. Shout out to Box House for having our first event.
Thank you for plugging me in. I appreciate it.
No, but Gloves for Grief, yes. It's more like fighting through grief.
Ooh,
the gloves, like we are boxing, we are fighting through grief, fighting for our lives. This is our comeback, right? That's what this is about. And so we're starting a nonprofit. Okay. And it's going to be incorporating all three of those branches. And the body part of it is where we're doing events at different local gyms. Yeah. We're going to do boxing. We'll do other healing wellness events, introducing and connecting people to, mental health professionals. Yeah. And soul, being able to provide some resources into some of our church affiliations. So it's kind of like an all-encompassing. Wow. But I would say the only silver lining, because there is no silver lining, I'd say the only lining is that I've met some of the most beautiful people, the strongest people that I've ever met. And this community isn't just about, women that have lost children. It's for any type of loss. Wow. Because, yes, that is our why, because my partner Ashley and I both lost our sons. But this is about any type of grief and any kind of loss.
How can they find you?
So we have an Instagram, Gloves for Grief. We also have a website, gloves with the number 4grief.com, that has all of our events, our upcoming events. So right now we're really just trying to create awareness so people know that we're doing this. Yeah.
You guys are already rock stars. I've heard quite a bit about it. And I tuned into one of them because one of them was actually done at my studio. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming in and putting that on. I saw the highlight video. It was very impactful. I didn't realize there was a thing you guys did in the boxing ring where you guys were kind of like a mantra was going on. This very spiritual experience was going on.
We were praying.
People were praying. I saw some people tearing up. Yeah. And faith is huge for a lot of people. Yeah. And it sounds like your faith is really, really strong. Yeah. With your faith and where you're at currently, what's the future like for you right now?
I think when you go through an experience like this, it completely changes who you are. There's Terra before and there's the Terra now. I'm still a mom, you know, I'm still a wife, and I'm still a badass, you know, entrepreneur.
Yeah, let's go.
But ultimately, like, I just want to help people that are going through this, because I didn't even understand my own grief.
Oof.
I didn't even know what grief was. And I want to give people the tools to get better, because this is not something that will ever go away. You're going to live with this forever. So how do you get better?
That part.
Get stronger.
That part.
It's our comeback, right?
Yeah.
This is my comeback.
I love it so much. This is incredible. I want to thank you so much for coming here. Do you
Thanks
have any
for
final
having
notes
me.
you want to have for the viewers, or anything you want to say to them? Or
Well, I would just say, for anyone that's been through this, that's lost a child, I'm so sorry for your loss. You know, you're not alone. You're not alone, and there's lots of support out there.
There is.
And, you know, find us. We'd love to help you through your journey.
That's incredible, incredible. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming out and sharing your experience, sharing your life, and really living and telling your truth with no reservation. That's incredible. And being emotional on camera, which it's a big deal, because a lot of people want to hold back.
Oof.
But for what?
Yeah.
We're here.
Nope. I talk through my tears these days, so
I love it.
no, I appreciate it.
So I want to thank you again for coming here.
Yeah.
This is Nobody Cares. My name is Andre Huseman. Until next time, I appreciate you guys listening. This was a good one. This one's gonna take me a little bit to process myself. So,
Yeah.
But I got this guy right here. I'll be all right. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Give me a hug.
All right. Thank you.
I'm doing this podcast for a lot of different reasons, but more than anything, I want to get perspective on new mothers, current mothers, mothers that are excited, mothers that are indifferent, mothers that are looking to be incredible moms. I want to get all those emotions, all those feelings, all those conversations on the table, all to say that at the end of the day, nobody fucking cares.